Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Fan Show. I'm your host, Robert. As every TNA fan knows, 2013 Genesis pay-per-view was nothing but crap. I've never seen that bad of a pay-per-view ever. So what I have done is I went through the TNA roster and the TNA Genesis pay-per-view and correctly wrote what the pay-per-view should have entailed or what the creative team of TNA should have wrote. So here's my opinion what the TNA creative team should have wrote for your TNA Genesis pay-per-view for January of 2013. So for my pay-per-view, first match, the TNA X Division title in an Ultimate X match. Champion RVD versus Christopher York versus Kenny King versus Zema Ion. And your new X Division champion, Kenny King. Second match, TNA Tag Team Championships on the line. Champions Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez versus Matt Morgan and that 70s porn star, Joey Ryan. And still Tag Team Champions, Guerrero and Hernandez. Third match would be Samoa Joe versus Mr. Anderson. And winner by submission, the submission machine, Samoa Joe. Fourth match, a #1 contender for the TNA World title. We have James Storm versus Christopher Daniels. And your new #1 contender for the TNA World Heavyweight title, James Storm. Of course, after the match, you'll probably be beat down by Daniels and Kaz, but still, your #1 contender would be James Storm. Fifth match on the card would be a gauntlet match for the TNA Knockouts title. So you'd have champion knockout gauntlet match for the knockout title. You got Tara versus Gail Kim versus Miss Tessmacher versus Mickie James versus Velvet Sky. And winner and new Knockouts champion, Velvet Sky. And yes, gentlemen, you can stare at her as she makes her acceptance speech and she gets in and out of the ring. And you all know what I'm talking about. And sub-main for this pay-per-view would be a tag team match. Sting and Joseph Park versus Doc and Devon. Sting and Joseph Park would win. Down would come Aces and Eights for a beatdown, obviously. And then Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle would come out and help Sting and Joseph Park. And your winners would be Sting and Joseph Park. Your main event, the TNA World title, an elimination match. This is exactly what happened at the pay-per-view. We would have Jeff Hardy champion versus Austin Aries versus Bobby Roode. But unlike in the real pay-per-view, new champion, TNA World Champion, Bobby Roode. With this kind of card, leading into Lockdown, very easily, you have a new TNA champion. So, your TNA match for Lockdown would be former champion RVD versus Kenny King in a cage match. You would have Miss Joe versus Mr. Anderson, starting a little something there, in a cage match. You would have new champion, new #1 contender for the world title, James Storm, versus your new champion, Bobby Roode, versus your old champion, Jeff Hardy, in a 3-way cage match for the TNA World title. You got Sting, Joseph Park, Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, you could do in a Lethal Lockdown versus Aces and Eights. So see, TNA, with what you guys put on, nothing leads anywhere. With the card that I just told you could have done, you have all these possible lead-ins for your biggest pay-per-view of the year, Lockdown, in March, live from San Antonio. So TNA, if you need help writing wrestling news pay-per-view cards, feel free to drop me a line. I'd be more than happy to tell you what you should write. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my Genesis 2013 pay-per-view. Have a great night.